A solid start to the year. That's how Ian Page, CEO of Dechra Pharmaceuticals, has described the last 6 months. Profit up over 11%, as was revenue. I'm delighted to say he joins us now. Thanks very much for coming in. A solid start to the year, but where does that leave the next 6 months?
Well, I think what you've seen, particularly in Europe, is momentum in sales over the last 3 reporting periods. Sales momentum has picked up considerably, and our performance in the US is exceptional. So I think it's much more of the same over the next 6 months. The
same kind of growth? Are we to put figures on the growth in profit, the growth in revenue? Would we be looking at the same?
Well, I think one thing that's actually detracted from the result is exchange rates.
Currency headwinds.
Yeah, currency headwinds. But the underlying performance from a revenue perspective on a like-for-like basis is exceptional. But it's difficult to predict the future in terms of what's going to happen to exchange rates. But certainly, you know, we are realising a bottom line that is commensurate with growth at the moment, and that's despite those headwinds. So if those headwinds lapse a little, then we should see a better bottom line performance.
And in terms of that growth, a lot of it has been organic so far. Is that going to continue to be the case? Are we going to see more acquisitions? Where does the growth come from?
Well, we've not made a significant acquisition in the last couple of years. We bought a small business in the US last year, but there wasn't that material. It was more of a strategic acquisition. So we have a strong pipeline that I think will deliver organic growth into the future. We would like to acquire, but the veterinary market's already very consolidated, so there's not a huge number of businesses to go after. So we are relying on organic growth, but even with our current pipeline, you know, there are new countries we can expand into. We've recently launched in Canada, we're about to launch into Poland, so we've got plenty of opportunities on the table.
Let's look at the consolidated sector, as it were, yes. Because it is as it is. It's very difficult to grab more market share. What are you doing to do that? Well,
Big Pharma dominate our space. You know, 5 big global pharmaceutical companies dominate the veterinary market. We've carved out a specialist niche area, so we're looking really at sort of $10–15 million products that Zoetis and Merck and all these big companies are not really that interested in, and we're focusing on disease areas that vets are looking to treat but are struggling to treat because the medicines aren't available at the moment. So, you know, we're not competing head on with Big Pharma, we're just carving ourselves a nice little niche.
When can we expect to hear the next sort of big product, as it were, do you feel?
Well, we just launched a major product that we've been developing over the last 5 years, something called Osphos, which is used in horses. Initial take-up of that product has been excellent. We've got another product that's now been filed, something we're going to brand Zycortal, an endocrine product for dogs that is going to complement one of our key therapeutic sectors, and we'd like to think that we'll see that within the next 12 months, which in pharmaceutical terms is pretty near term.
In terms of Osphos, let's focus on that. How much is that going to add to the bottom line, do you feel?
Well, we're forecasting sales of sort of $10–15 million. It's a very high margin product, so eventually we'll see a lot of that wash through to the bottom line. What's always difficult to predict is when you launch a brand new drug in an area that vets couldn't treat before, how long it takes you to educate the veterinary fraternity to get maximum sales. But, you know, we've got great hopes for that drug, and I'd like to think that we'll get to that sort of maturity of that sort of number within about 3 years, and most of that will wash through to the bottom line.
You are sitting on, what, $3 million cash pile at the moment?
Yeah, that's the first time in recent history that we've been cash positive, actually, because we've made a number of acquisitions historically that have meant that we had debt on the balance sheet.
So shareholders will be celebrating that, but then again it comes back to this sort of acquisition line. What will you be doing with that money? Well,
you know, we are screening a number of acquisitions. Although the market's very consolidated in America and Western Europe, there are other territories that we're looking at to potentially buy bolt-ons. But, you know, if we don't buy something in the next couple of years, then ask me the question again and we'll see where we are then.
I'm going to ask you the question again, though. Looking at those bolt-ons, are there in any areas you can tell us that you are?
Well, we're always looking for new products. We're always looking for products that will add to the portfolio.
Any particular area?
Well, you know, we are specialists in sort of dermatology and endocrinology and critical care, anything equine. So it'd be nice to buy anything that sort of fits in with those therapeutic categories. But I think the most likely area we're going to buy is something that will accelerate our geographical expansion.
So you've got nothing, no eye on anything specific at the moment?
Well, we've got our eyes on lots of things specific, but getting them to sell to you is a different matter.
Obviously, the fact that you are cash positive means that you can do things like increase your dividend, which you have done. Yeah, yes. What do you pay? What, 5.12 pence per share at the moment?
It's an 8% increase on the.
Yeah, is that something you hope and you think you can continue to grow?
Well, we've grown our dividend successfully now for the last 15 years since we listed on the stock exchange. So yes, we will continue to increase dividends in line with earnings.
Well, let's look at that sort of value for shareholders other than just the dividend. I mean, over the last 12 months, you're up around over 30%. It's a very strong uptrend. Specifically, actually, 2015 has continued that trend. Do you feel you really can continue in that sort of that much growth, not just profit revenue, but also share price? Well,
I think we can continue to. We've got 10 years of double-digit underlying earnings growth, and without wanting to make forecasts, I think that you tend to work on your history to set your future. In terms of the return for shareholders, we have seen a good uplift in the share price recently. I think we've seen a little bit of re-rating. In 2000, we were about the only listed animal health company. There now seems to be a huge amount of interest in the space, and Pfizer sold Zoetis, created Zoetis by a separate listing, and I think that's created a new rating for Dechra and a lot of other animal health companies, because I think people are seeing the sustainable value and the life cycle of animal health products is very appealing to pharmaceutical companies.
It is. Do you feel the sector as a whole is obviously very healthy then? Where can it go from here?
Well, people continue to spend money on their animals. The pet is one of the last areas of household expenditure to be sacrificed in a recession. So I think that people have recognised it's a robust companion animal market, but also from a farm animal perspective, there's a bigger demand for animal proteins from developing countries that have low husbandry levels, which requires more use of pharmaceuticals. So I think the market overall is in pretty good shape and is a good market to be in.
I want to just finally go back to something we mentioned at the beginning, and that was those currency headwinds, because we have seen a lot of activity in what we're seeing in the euro. What are you doing to try and hedge against that, do you feel?
We don't directly hedge or pre-buy currencies. We have a certain degree of natural hedging. A lot of the active drugs that we acquire are either bought in dollars or euros, so that has a certain degree of natural hedging. But other than that, we're really hedging by moving into new markets.
One final word from you to investors to sort of encourage them or give them, positive thoughts about how this can continue to grow at these paces?
We've carved ourselves out a niche specialisation, and as the market is being consolidated more and more into big pharma, they're going to be missing the opportunities that we're taking advantages of. And as we've already pointed out, we're trading in a buoyant marketplace, and I think we're in a good position to continue to take advantage of that market.
Okay, well, Ian Page, CEO of Dechra Pharmaceuticals, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.